Hi everyone, it's Charlie Webster here. We're back with season 2 of My Sport in Mind. I'm really excited. If you've just discovered us, welcome along. The podcast is all about opening up conversations around mental health in sport and life. We're really proud to be supported by Sporting Life for season 2. Head to sportinglife.com for expert insight, passionate opinion, and in-depth analysis. I can't even say it, for the sports you love, all for free, which is always a bonus. And to kick off season 2, I'm super excited to welcome Tottenham and England defender Eric Dier to the podcast.
Massive Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it because I know the football schedule's just been mad recently. Yeah. So thanks for your time. Is it kind of nice when you get a bit of a breather and do things like this, or is it not?
Yeah, no, it is nice. And obviously with the circumstance at the moment, we've got a lot of free time at home. So it's nice to fill it with things like this and hopefully talk about some interesting things and help people in any way possible is always good as well.
I was reading a few articles and I saw one that said during the first lockdown you were doing some plant growing. So are you still doing that? Because one, my little brother is just getting into farming at the moment, and two, we planted all these spring onions in my window boxes and they're massive. It's something I've been doing. Is it something that you're still doing?
No, yeah, it is something I'm still doing. I enjoy it a lot actually, and I find it very. It's something which really helps me clear my mind, and it's something that's very rewarding as well. Growing your own things it's a bit of a journey, and you've got to learn quite a lot. But I really enjoy doing it, and it's a nice way for me. I like being outside, and I like I like being in that environment, and doing those kind of things helps me take my mind off everything else. And I only realized it really in lockdown, but it's something that really helps for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It gave me quite a big sense of achievement. It still does. And I've got some garlic growing as well. And it's kind of like watch, isn't it? Do you find it hard to relax? I mean, just before we started recording, we were joking because you said you're quite a homebod, and I was saying that I'm not. I'm the complete opposite, and I find it quite hard sitting still. What do you tend to be like?
No, I'm terrible like that. I find it very difficult to relax. I'm my mind's always going, and I'm someone that likes to always be doing something. So in that sense, I find it very difficult. But I am definitely a home person. I like to be at home, and I like to be in a comfortable setting, and so I'll always prefer, having friends around for dinner than going out for dinner or those kind of things, because I just think the environment is better for it.
What do you do to relax then? Or what have you been doing to relax and take your minds off football?
So yeah, the gardening. I always walk my dog every afternoon and evening, and that's something that I've always done. I really enjoy that. That helps me, just getting out and walking, and I don't like take my phone or anything with me. I just for half an hour, and I enjoy that. I really enjoy doing that. And then I have different things. So I just launched an app with my brother and another founder. So that's something that takes up a lot of time in the afternoons. And then I always try and do another kind of gym session in the afternoon. If it's yoga, Pilates, or some kind of gym session, I'll try and do one of them as well.
Are you into yoga then?
Yeah, I've been doing yoga since I was in Portugal. When I was like 18 or 19, I started doing it. And when I moved to London, the method which I was practicing in Portugal, the guy I was practicing with, he introduced me to the people that were practicing the same method here in London. So then ever since then, I've been doing it with them. But obviously, for a while now, I haven't been able to see Paolo, the instructor. I haven't been able to see him for a long time now. But I keep doing like the same routines within it though.
Do you think it helps? I'm interested because I do yoga, and I think it helps. Like I do a lot of endurance running. Do you think it's added to your game and helped you? And this maybe with recovery as well and strength.
It's an interesting one with yoga because and I had this conversation with Paolo, the instructor, because he said to me right at the beginning, like there'll be a moment where you become so aware of your body doing yoga that it could become a problem for you playing football, because you don't want to put your body in that in a situation where it might get hurt, because of the awareness you create for it in doing something like yoga. And I did find that start to creep in at some point. So we sort of had to I sort of had to back up a little bit at that point, if that makes sense. It's kind of a strange sensation, but you do become so aware of your body practicing something like yoga, which I think is extremely beneficial. But at the same time, there was that negative effect, which I found interesting. I mean, it was something that he raised right at the beginning, and something that we sort of had to deal with at the time. But apart from that, from a physical point of view and a mental point of view, yoga's helped me massively, because I'm very stiff. So so it's helped me improve me in a lot in that area.
That's interesting in terms of the awareness of your body, because I think that's a great thing, but then I can imagine it was almost like it'd make you more cautious. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, more cautious, not willing to put your body in a situation that might be uncomfortable for it, in terms of the contact or the stretching for something, in that sense, because with yoga, I think you really do create an incredible awareness for your body. So that was something which was interesting. But I think there are tons and tons of positives that I've taken from yoga and everything around it. So that whenever I do practice it, after I practice it, I feel so much better for it.
No, I can relate to that. What would you say to any men? I'm going to predominantly say that think, oh, I'm not even trying yoga. Because actually, I had a bit of that attitude, because I'm quite a gung-ho personality. And then I started doing it seriously about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot. Because I think there's that attitude, isn't there, sometimes?
There is, but even my dad started doing yoga 2 or 3 years ago, and that he's someone I'd never imagined would practice something like that, and he absolutely loves it, and it's something that he's stuck with. But I think we're kind of getting past those kind of stereotypes. I think a good example, I went to a Pilates class with my sister 3 or 4 years ago. I remember it was the day after a game, and I was walking up the hill to my house. I just had breakfast with my sister, and she was going to this place to do Pilates, and I was like, "Oh, I'll come with you." It was the day after a game, and I was in full tracksuit, trousers, everything. And I just thought, yeah, it can't be that hard. And I just remember after about 10 minutes, just being a shaking mess. There was sweat everywhere and just trembling my whole body, and I found a whole new respect for Pilates, and it's something that I've really enjoyed doing as well since. But so I think there's a lot to be said for it, and it is extremely good for you, and a lot more difficult than it looks. Yeah, which I found out the hard way.
It really is. Before I forget, what's the app that you're doing? Because you mentioned that you're doing an app with your brother.
Yeah, we just launched an app called Spotless. So it's a recommendation sharing social network. The idea behind it is people being able to share recommendations with friends and family. I think we're trying to put the word of mouth experience onto a social network, where it was one of the reasons I fell in love with the idea so much. Was a lot of people would go to Lisbon and they'd be asking me, "Oh, where should we go for dinner? Where should we go out? Where should we stay?" And all these kind of questions. And I used to have a note, and I'd send the notes list over, and it's kind of digitalizing that word of mouth. And I think it's an area where it's extremely behind, and we trust so much more recommendations from people, our friends and our family, people that we know. And if you know a person well, you have a much better idea for a place and what the style of that place will be. So we believe it's something we're really excited about, and hopefully everyone enjoys it. It's been a difficult time because lockdown has obviously stopped everyone going out in any social way. But yeah, we're really excited about it, and we hope people enjoy it.
I'm sure people will when we're allowed to go out again. Because I think that's a great idea, because it's something that I do when I'm traveling. I'm always like, oh, rather than just kind of.
Yeah, I think it gives like people the chance to feel at home in any city, you know, by being able to know people. You have friends and family or people that have traveled there before, and so you have a much better idea of places you like to go, places you like to stay. And I think you know, in the standard websites where all these things kind of happen, it's ratings and reviews from people you don't know. You have no idea who they are and what their tastes are. So it gives you a much better accurate feel for an environment, a place, a hotel, a restaurant. And so, yeah, we're really excited about that.
And you always get that like one complainer, don't you, on TripAdvisor that you just know is really annoying.
Yeah.
It almost makes you want to go because they've given like a bad review.
Yeah. And I don't like annoying people. You know, if I go to Belgium, maybe I'll message Yamba Tongan on with Dembele. If I go to Spain, I'll message Regulon or something. But it's kind of, you know, it's somewhere where you can go, or you can go on Spotless and you can see all of their places, and you kind of have to avoid those messages because I know they can become annoying from personal experience.
I'm going to be annoying though and take you back now to Lisbon. Talking about Lisbon, because you moved to Portugal as a kid, so the Algarve.
Yeah.
You know, mom got a job over there, and then started playing really young in sport in Lisbon. Was it like eight years
I was
old?
8. Yeah, I was 8 years old. Yeah.
How was that? Was it just normal to you, or was there pressure?
No, there was no there was absolutely no pressure. It was extremely. It wasn't easy at the beginning for me. I was you know, in a new environment. I couldn't speak the language. You know, a few times my mum literally had to throw me over the fence to go and train because I didn't want to, because I felt, you know, not for fear of playing football, just fear of the environment.
Yeah.
So
Like,
she likes to remind me that every now and then if I'm trying to be a tough guy. Yeah, it was incredible, you know, playing there from 8 until I made my debut at 20, and you know, it's my club, you know. I don't have another club like it. I feel like it's my home. So and then living at the academy from 13, you know, it is an incredible feeling, an incredible family environment there. So yeah, I only have good memories.
once you learn the language better, was it kind of easier to be accepted within the club?
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, the first couple of years weren't easy for me being an outsider, you know. It wasn't easy, especially the language barrier. Once I learned Portuguese and I started going to Portuguese school, and then I really perfected my Portuguese. But I learned Portuguese pretty much in those early days from 9, 10, just from playing football at Sporting, because I was going to an English school. So only when I went to like a Portuguese school at 13 did I really perfect my Portuguese. But by then I was captain of the youth teams from I think about 10 or 11, and my Portuguese was yeah, perfectly adequate to manage everything. And I just became like one of them, really. It wasn't there was no I was English, and there was always jokes about that in different ways, but yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be, right? So
Yeah.
at that stage, did you have your eyes set on being a professional in the terms of at the highest level like you are now?
No, when I moved to the academy at 13, so I moved there and lived there full time, went to school there, and when I did that and like made the decision to do that, I felt like it was becoming something very serious. That in my mind, I sort of thought then like, okay, I'm going for it, you know. And from then, really, my sole objective was trying to get into Sporting's first team, and there was a very very clear pathway. I mean, players did it every year because it's what the club was based on. So that pathway really gave you something to look to and focus on. And so that was my aim from, you know, as young as I can remember, really there.
What was it like when you moved? Because you went on loan to Everton and you moved to
Yeah.
England, but you'd pretty much been brought up in a different country.
Mm.
What was that like for you? Because again, you was 16 years old. It must have felt kind of foreign, if you know what I mean, in a weird way.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It felt completely foreign to me. To be honest, the first 6 months I hated it. Like It was for me. Well, keeping coming back when I was 20, I felt very much like a foreigner coming to England, and at that time when I came to Everton, I felt very much that way. It's funny, my English actually, I spoke perfect English, but most of my day was in Portuguese back then, and it was kind of a strange thing coming to Liverpool and speaking English all the time, and just a completely different environment. But yeah, I think it was a huge it had a huge impact on me, and something that was really beneficial for me looking back on it.
In what way, when you look back now? What did you learn?
Because I was, so I'd been 8 years at Sporting, and I was very extremely comfortable in that environment at Sporting, and everything had gone very smooth until then, and there was kind of some problems within the whole setup at Sporting at the time, and I think my father just said to me that he really felt that I needed to get out of that environment and try something new, experiencing something, put myself in an uncomfortable situation, to not halter my development. And going to Everton, I always say, like, I went to Everton a boy and I came back a man. When I came back at 17 or 18, I was a completely different, being in an environment in England where it's a lot more. It's just quite a lot more hostile, the environment. The training every day, a lot more intense. I physically, I changed a lot in those years. I had an incredible benefit physically for me. So yeah, there was loads of things that really helped me that time.
When you came back to Lisbon, what was that last season like, and how do you deal with, because you didn't get as much game time, so how do you deal with that? It's something that's always intrigued me in sport, because you're to be the best, to be where you are, that must motivate you so much. But then when you're not playing games, how do you deal with it mentally?
Yeah, it's a good thing to go through when you're young, so that you know how to, because lots of young kids, you're always the best in your age group, and you go through every age group very smoothly, and then you get to the first team, and then you play, or maybe you don't play, and so it's good to experience it when you're young. For me, I was going back and I was like 18, but then Sporting had just started a B team, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to go back to Sporting, because they're playing in the Championship, so it was a competitive environment. And I was 17, 18, and I think they were like, there were 21, 22-year-olds playing in the B team. So, but I was training with the B team every day, playing with them, and so I wasn't too worried about that in that sense. I was very happy to be in that environment with a lot of very good players. I mean, the Sporting's track record is incredible, and the players that were in that B team, there's numerous of them playing all over Europe now. So it was the whole academy setup, the level was always extremely high.
And then you moved back to England again.
Yeah.
What was that like in terms of settling again somewhere that you didn't really know?
Yeah, it was obviously an easier transition. I've been in Sporting's first team for like a year and a half. I I'd played maybe like 30 games or something in total, 35 games, so not a lot. But worked under some great managers, Leonardo Jardim, who went to Monaco afterwards and did very well there. Josualdo Ferreira, who's an old manager but very well known in Portugal, won with Porto before, and he was a bit of a father figure for me in football in those times. He helped me a lot. And then Marco Silva was my last manager, and I had an extremely good relationship with him. In some ways, it would have been nice to have played a season under him at Sporting, but I just felt like the time was right. I felt like Tottenham were a fantastic fit for me for where I was, and speaking to people like James Ward-Prowse and Luke Shaw, who I knew from the England setup by then, talking to them about Pochettino and his philosophy with youngsters, and how that if you deserve your chance, he doesn't hold you back at all. So that all excited me, and my ambition was always to play in the Premier League. So I felt like when you get the opportunity, you have to take it.
You just reeled off, I think, three different managers that were Portuguese, and then obviously you mentioned Pochettino, who was at Tottenham. What's it like playing under different managers? Because you've got your individual style of play, right? And then you've got the way that a manager wants to play. How do you adapt?
Well, the younger you are, the easier it is to adapt. The easier it is. Yeah, they were all had differences. I think all managers I've worked under all have differences and all have similarities. Very constant similarities I find between managers. So for me, just I think the most important thing is to be yourself, play the way you think you play best. Try and impress the new manager when he comes in, because I think when new managers come in, there's really a fresh start for everyone, which you need sometimes. But yeah, just I think just always being yourself, and always I think that's what's going to come through, because at the end of the day, if a new manager comes in and you act a certain way, you can't keep it up, because your natural self will come through in the end. So to be yourself, I think, is the most important thing.
It's kind of stressful trying to be something different for different people, right?
Exactly. So I think that if you believe in your principles, and I very strongly believe in my principles that my parents gave me, that Sporting gave me as a club, I very strongly believe in those principles. So those have always been my benchmark, and I try and always follow them.
Come on then, what are they? I'm going to ask you that.
Sorry?
What are they? Give me a list of some of the principles that, are in who you are, but also the way you play as an athlete, but who you are as a person.
Well, yeah, I think from a young, always hardworking. I think extremely hardworking. I don't think I'll ever be outworked by anyone. My family, that to be polite, be respectful. That was something. Respect was something that was extremely important at Sporting Lisbon. To be loyal. I think I'm very loyal to those that I care about, and yeah, the environment at Sporting, ever since I moved to the academy, and even before that, their focus was so much on the person rather than the player. They focused so much on that. Your school had to be right, your respect for others had to be right. You had to shake everyone's hands in the morning. You had to say good morning. You had to make your bed. Your room had to be tidy. All of those kind of things were all of those kind of principles were huge for them. So that was something that is fantastic, and I think is the right way to do things for young people in general. Yeah.
I saw that you're an ambassador for Sported, and you've done some work with them, especially with like young lads and youth groups. What do you think football so far, and I mean, I know you've got a long way to go in your playing career, has taught you, especially in terms of like dealing with emotions and frustrations?
Yeah. It teaches you so much, and it teaches you it very quickly, because I think the reason I always defend a lot when footballers get in trouble for different reasons. I'm always a big defender of theirs in general, because you're 20, 21, 19, 18, in an environment which is so cutthroat, which you probably wouldn't you don't really experience. Other, maybe in other sports you might experience it, but I don't think there's many places where you experience such a intense environment at such a young age. So I think it's you grow up very quickly. I always think, like, whenever I look at people I know of a certain age, and I look at a footballer of that age, I always think extremely mature in every way, because things happen a lot earlier and a lot sooner. So you have to learn quick, and if you don't learn quick, the game keeps going. In football, I think it's a game with the shortest memory as well. What you did yesterday is irrelevant today.
Yeah, especially if it's like good, because then if something, I don't know, a team loses, and then that's all the
Exactly.
Focus on, right? It's interesting you say about, like, I find that speaking to lots of different sports people in terms of like the maturity. How have you personally dealt with that cutthroatness, and how do you deal with things when they don't go right? I suppose just in general.
Um, yeah, it's difficult. It's like, I don't really ever really like self-reflect on it. It's just um, when things aren't going right, I always try and go back to like go back to my principles and see if I've strayed from any of those. Make sure that yeah, kind of going back to basics. I personally always find that if I'm going through a difficult period, I'll I'll kind of work for it. I'll work harder than I would normally, to get through it, and that I always putting in that extra bit of work here and there. That always helps me build my confidence back up and push through something. So I'll do that, and then obviously you rely on people as well. I rely on my family and my friends to help me get through those periods as well.
Because I know you went through, I mean, it was a public tough time, which I suppose is very hard if you're a footballer, because I can imagine there's not a lot of things that don't end up being public, where you had a problem with your appendix. And I remember when you came back, and I was really ill one time 4 or 5 years ago, and it was so hard for me to come back. And I think quite often people don't look at the aftermath, right? How hard was it you in terms of the frustration that you had in your mind and what your body was able to do at that time, especially with the fact that it was difficult in terms of immune system and recovery during that period?
Yeah, well, there's so much on this topic. Firstly, like, people were always mentioning like, oh, he's had injury problems. I'm like, no, like I've actually, touch wood, never had a serious injury or any injury up to that point. I think at Tottenham to that point, I think maybe Hugo and Christian were the only players that played more minutes since I've been at Tottenham. So I prided myself on that, consistently being fit, and for it to be a health issue, was even harder to deal with, I think, because if it was something muscular that you did while you're playing, you have a lot better understanding of it from experience with others, and experience when you're younger. But being a health issue, it was extremely difficult for me to kind of accept. And you're kind of at your physical peak, and it was my own fault as well, because I thought after my appendix, I was just like, oh, this can be quick. I'm gonna be back really quick, and
Yeah.
rushing through everything, thinking you're unbeatable. But with an illness, it's incredible just how vulnerable you become so quickly. And my problem was really simple. I had my appendix, but my appendix burst, and so I was rushed to hospital, and then my recovery, as I said, I think the first time I pushed it way too fast, too quickly, got ill again, and my immune system just couldn't. Every time I'd start to build up my training, I'd fall ill again, like 4, 5, 6 times, So my fitness, I couldn't get fit basically. And then after a while, we as the club decided, like, we're gonna have to take this really slowly, and literally like day by day. So I was like checking my heart rate and heart rate variability every morning before when I woke up, to see how I was, if I was tired or not, and then they sort of plan my training based on that to try and build myself up. And so it took a very long time, and it was extremely difficult. And then during those periods, I was playing games sometimes, but obviously no way near the level I wanted to be at, or the fitness that I wanted to be at, or the mindset. I was just trying pushing, trying to get back. And so then those kind of things creep in. So it was a difficult time. And then, as you said, I don't really care too much about it, but obviously people only see those snippets of when you play and don't really know what's going on in between all those times. And so so that can become frustrating. But thankfully I got through it in the end, and it wasn't, it's not the end of the world, but it was a difficult time.
Yeah, it sounds it. What was I was gonna ask, what advice would you give to anybody that's going through, especially now, a period like that where they've been, I mean, I can really relate to this myself, where there's this expectation of what you should be able to do. Oh yeah, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. And what's your best piece of advice during that period? Is it take day by day?
Mm, Yeah, don't rush, because I think in your head, it's like it could be the next game, the next race, the next whatever it is. You're thinking so short term. Well, even now I constantly think so short term, and then I look back now and I think, like, why was I rushing for that or for this? It looks so silly now when you look back on it, but in the moment, so I think you need to try and take yourself out of that and do everything in the right way, and really listen to your body, and try and be very disciplined, and yeah, accept advice again from people around you. Is something that you should look for it. You should look for help, and you should accept help, because I don't think any of these things you can do by yourself.
Yeah, I agree. What helped you the most, or during that period, or who helped you the most?
Yeah, my family, my friends. I talked to them a lot. They were, yeah, they were the people that helped me the most, for sure. My parents, my brothers and sisters, and my close friends. I'd speak to them a lot, and they'd give me a lot of support, and try and help me in any way they could. Um, and then obviously the medical department at the club, um, and and then, yeah, making changes. I ended up getting a nutritionist to get through that period, and really focused on my diet, and everything around that, to try and um, push everything to its max, to make sure that I was doing everything right.
Yeah. Um, it's just interesting here you talk about that. And in terms of fans, because you're right about this expectation, it's almost like, oh well, you're out diet, you shouldn't be allowed to be ill, or and it's almost
Yeah,
more accepted if it's an injury, because I also think because people can see it, right? It's obvious
yeah,
what you
yeah,
did, it's a cruise ship, whatever, or
yeah, yeah.
is what people say something that affects you, or is it just something that you've learned to write over your head? And
No,
especially even 10 minutes ago, I think you said about like footballers defending footballers.
yeah. No, I've never been someone that's really been affected. Obviously, things can affect you sometimes, but I've never really been affected too much, because I had the incident with the fan, and it's kind of funny that it was me that had the incident, because it's not really something that ever really bothers me at all in any way. I don't really, I don't really pay attention, because I think I'm very honest with myself, which is very important, and I'm lucky, because I think I have people around me that are very honest with me as well. So if they don't think I'm acting in the right way or doing something the right way, they tell me as well.
Mhm.
So that's very helpful. But so, like, if I'm playing badly, if I'm doing badly, or if whatever, I know before anyone else. I don't need anyone else to tell me. If my manager tells me, or my brother, sister's parents, I'm going to listen to them. I'm all ears for them. But for anyone else, I'm not really interested in what they say or how they feel about it. I think you're really right about the illness, because it's something that people couldn't see, and I'm not someone who's gonna, like, make a big deal out of it or tell anyone. So if you can't see it, I think you're right. In a sense, it's a bit harder to understand.
Yeah, I think that applies to mental health a lot of the time as well. It's almost like we're more forgiving if we can see that somebody's got a physical injury, because we can understand it more, maybe.
Mm, mm.
How much is the mind and psychology part of your game, and especially under your current manager, Jose Mourinho? I mean, I don't obviously know him personally. I mean, I've met him a few times, but I presume he's quite psychological in his game.
Yeah, he's extremely psychological. I think he's mentally, one of the strongest people I know. I think I think it's something he's always prided himself on, something a huge strength of his. But the mental side is huge in football. I think well, growing up, especially the amount of footballers that I knew that were a lot better than me that didn't make it, was purely a mental aspect and not a physical one. So the mental aspect is, well, it's the biggest, it's the most important, I think, in my eyes. I think like the talent and the quality of lots of players is very similar, and it will be their mental fortitude and that will be the difference.
And in terms of also belief, do you mean?
Yeah, belief in this, belief in themselves, but more than belief, I think not. I think more than belief, the mental fortitude in difficult moments, the mental, willing to go that extra mile is, willing to run that extra little bit or put a little bit more effort in there is purely a mental thing. It's not physical at all. Of course, you could be tired at the end of the game or something, but it really does come down to how much you're willing to do and how much you're willing, to sacrifice and put into something, which all comes down to your mentality, I think.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm so fascinated in terms of the mind and what it can do, and that's why I do a lot of endurance races and stuff as well, because I think it's not about the physicality, it's about
No.
you can push yourself to be able to do when you're feeling pain or when things don't go right.
Yeah, 100%. But also, like, you can build up that mental strength, in doing physical work. You can build up that mental strength. I think, like, during the first lockdown, I was, my brothers and my brothers-in-law, like they love to run and train and do different things. So we were all doing different things, and I got a bit obsessed with 5K runs, and trying to get my time down on 5K runs, and they're like, and getting through those and like bringing your time down, but just getting through them, and it's like, gives you a lot of mental strength and builds up your mental capacity. So it's something you can definitely work on. If you get through difficult things mentally, you build strength, I think.
Yeah, I definitely do that with my times anyway. So in terms of this year, it's kind of a big year for you, and you're obviously going for maybe a win in the Premier League with Tottenham, and also obviously there's the Euros. Hopefully there's the Euros. If you like set yourself goals, is that something you do for the year? Have you got one mind on the Euros? Or
No, one thing I've learned in football is like not to put your mind on something that far in front. I don't think that's a good idea at all. Yeah, just no. I've definitely got goals and things I want to do this season, and I've got individual ambitions and collective ambitions. But I would never think that far ahead, because there's a lot to be done before that, and in football things change extremely quickly, as I said before. So I try and focus like just constantly, like, control everything that I can control to do with myself first and foremost.
So I do a lot of work around mental health, and that's one of the things that has really helped me. And I always say to people is, there's so many things out of our control, and I think we as humans like to try and control everything because it makes us feel safer. And one thing to do is to just focus on what you can control and focus on that moment. Because again, if you look too far ahead, then you start going, well, what if this happened?
Yeah.
Euros. What if there's no fans at Wembley for the final or whatever? If England gets to the final, what would your big piece of advice be for people that are finding things tough right now, or just for the moment? Because I think in general, in whatever your circumstance are, people are having challenges.
I always find it difficult to speak on to try and like how do I say, like to give people advice for things that they're going through, because it's extremely difficult to put yourself in someone else's position, you know,
Yeah.
and understand something completely from someone else's side. So I hate to sound like like, you know, try and you know, preach or in any way to anyone, because I just try and, like, in the way I love to let people know how I do things and how I find things help me, and if that help can help someone else, then that's great. But different things are going to work for different people as well. So I think it's about being open-minded. You know, try different things, try different. I love, like, trying different things, and then some things stick with me and some things pass on, you know, and they'll be great for someone else, but they're not great for me, you know. So I think to have an open mind and try new things is extremely important. And I'm always, like, trying different things to try and feel better in certain situations. So I think that's really important, to have an open mind to that. And then, yeah, in terms of focusing on yourself, I think with, especially nowadays, like social media and all those kind of things, people can constantly be looking outwards towards what other people are doing, how other people are living, and completely false interpretation of it as well. So to focus on yourself and what you can control, and focus on what makes you feel better. You know, don't worry what someone else is doing it in another way. It doesn't matter. If this makes you feel good, then follow that, you know. And yeah, I think that's good.
I think that's really good you saying about advice. And you made a really good point though, because you're right. What me might say or what works for us might not work for other people. So I think it's a great point that it doesn't matter if it doesn't work for you. But I think that was a really good bit of advice at the end. And thanks so much. I really appreciate you talking to us and your time.
My
Um,
pleasure. My
I
pleasure.
hope
Thank you for having me.
I hope to see you in the Euros, hopefully.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can all watch you. But yeah, thanks again
So,
for your time and good luck for this season.
thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I
I
hope you
hope.
enjoyed the first episode back. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts as well. And you can check out our YouTube and our social media as well. Thanks to sportinglive.com, who are our new sponsors. We're really, really pleased about, ahead of the rest when it comes to unbiased opinions and sports analysis. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks again to you, Eric. We really appreciate your time. Good luck for the rest of the season, rest of the year, and take care. Speak again soon.